Good evening. Welcome to a regular meeting of Athens City Council. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2014. All council members are present. And we have a quorum of full council is here. Our first little piece of business is accepting a set of minutes. The regular session held January 6th, 2014. Could I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes from January 6th, 2014 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The minutes are accepted. Communications, the only communication I have is a reminder to the members of council that our luncheon with President McDavis is coming up in a couple weeks. It will be on Tuesday, January 28th in the President's Dining Room at the Baker Center, same place we've had it before. Remember, we set this up a few years ago where council invites the president and his staff to luncheon, usually in the late summer or fall, and then he reciprocates with a spring luncheon for council and Baker Center. And remember that this is a council action, a council meeting, so people are welcome to attend. Please just let us know. Okay. Reports and communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil?
Just two items. One, we've been getting some calls about the trash and recycling pickup. There was no delay this week, so if there was any confusion, Martin Luther King Day, the pickups for Monday were Monday. So everything's not been dropped back one day, but it's on the scheduled day. The other one, of course, is we had snowfall. The Athens City Code requires you to, 4 hours after dawn, after the snowfall, is to clean your sidewalks. It can get pretty icy out there. We expect this stuff to stick for a couple of days, so please either put salt out or scrape it off and make it safe to anybody to travel on sidewalks. It is actually in our code. So those are my two communications.
And it's also just being a good neighbor, because it is very possible for people to get injured on slippery sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
Athens is a hilly city with some steep hills and some little ones to kind of sneak up on you when it's icy.
Precisely. You know, you don't want to be an amateur.
I would just like to add, in the closed-in neighborhoods, many of the rental management agencies are out there, but more of the individual owners, you know, there still are a lot of spots that have not been cleared today. So we'd hope that folks would get out there and do that, or their tenants.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mayor, too. Something that maybe I'd like us to consider discussing at some point, because I've read about this in other communities, is offering salt buckets to our elderly and retired people, in which it might be challenging or difficult or not wise to be shoveling. So I've seen in other communities where you show your ID of residency, that you're a citizen of Athens, and you can go in and get some salt from the Public Works office, and then you're able to throw that down on the sidewalk. Something I think it's worthwhile discussing, or I'd like us to consider and looking at. Thank you.
I'll think about that. You want the front end loader full or just a packet?
I said small buckets or something too heavy would be.
I'll perk it to my administration and see if we can
Sure.
spare some
I'm
salt.
guessing it'd be something less than a pound, or, you know, a 5-pound bucket's pretty heavy, so something smaller. Thank you.
I don't think it occurs this often that we have a lot of snow, but we do, and a lot of it melts real quick, but we're going to have an unusual week, I think, at this point.
Treasurer? Head?
Auditor.
Auditor Head?
I just want to give a quick update on our CCA collections. And for 2013, we received $200,003 and $57, 203,057, sorry, plus $85,250 in in-house collections for a total additional revenue for 2013 of $288,307. The amnesty collection, which we put in place in preparation for the CCA program, we brought in $52,037 for a total additional collections through the CCA program, $340,344 as of the end of 2013. So just to let you know, and I think I did mention this before, but assessment letters have gone out. People who ignored the 2 letters that started a year ago got an assessment letter, meaning they were told they owed a certain amount of money because all we can do is take the information, or CCA, that they have according to their federal returns and assess them for taxes paid that aren't showing up on their taxes paid to the city. So again, those went out. If anyone calls you, emails you, send them to our office. They have a name, a contact person on the CCA program, but if anyone calls our office, and this has been the case all along, we absolutely will help them. And we have helped many people, and so they'll just let us know. As you all know, Tina is very, very, very nice to work with, and probably nicer than I would be for some of these people, which is probably a good thing. But, you know, just encourage them to contact us, and we will do what we can to help them. There's probably some of those people that don't even owe money. If they do, it's probably not very much. If they think they're going to have a problem, if they know they owe and they think they're going to have a problem paying, we will work with them on that also. So just if you hear from anybody, encourage them to not ignore the letters. The next step is going to court, legal action. Thank you.
The program was very successful in the past year. What's your anticipation for returns?
I'm hoping that we went through 2010. We're into 13. As I said, we brought in almost 300,000 last year. I would like to see us hit 50,000 this year for 2011, and 12 people who, you know, come in for that will most likely then go ahead and file for the next year, which is what we had. But that might be, you know, overly, you know, wishful thinking. But you know, I really don't know. But it won't be what we've had this year for those 5 years. And honestly, as we know, a lot of people didn't necessarily owe us money, but we had no way of knowing that unless they responded to the letters and went through the process. So,
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes,
I have a
Jeff?
question. If the collections for this coming year and the year after that are lower than you would project, might that indicate that people are, in fact, filing and
yes.
doing everything they're supposed to do, so that which is actually a good thing?
It is a good thing. Yeah, because I don't know if Tina put this on this report. She didn't. But I believe we've created about 200 new tax accounts for people. So once they realize, most of these people didn't realize that they should have been paying on some income earned somewhere else and things like that. If they owed us money, we created an account for them. So they will get information from us, you know, moving forward, and be expected to file every year. You're exactly right. So there will be a continuing increase in revenue because of this, even though it won't be through the CCA.
Yes, good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay. Thank you, Law Director Lang? No. Okay, we'll move on for ordinances for first reading, our first ordinances of the year. Ordinance 0114, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and execute an agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for a Clean Ohio Trails Fund grant for the Columbus Road Bike Path Spur and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular grant, the Clean Ohio Trails Fund grant, will complement some funding we already have in place. The earlier funding that we have is $735,000 for the Transportation Alternative Grant Program. And so what we will be doing with this new Clean Ohio Trails Fund will be applying for up to $500,000. And it will have a 75-25 split. In other words, 75% of the cost from the project can be charged to the grant. 25% of the cost will be cost share. And this will be, the particular location of this is providing what we're calling the bike path spur, but what it is a link between the bike path near the bridge, near, I think it's the Curran Road area on the bike path, and then it will link up to the bike lane on Columbus Road. So,
Does this need to be suspended? The deadline, I think, is supposed to be February 3rd?
First, it says on the ordinance, February
Okay, so
1st,
we
I
do
think
need
needs to
to
be
suspend.
suspended.
So I move that we suspend it.
Or, yep, yes.
Second.
We have a request to suspend the rules and a second. All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 0114 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. The rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I move to adopt ordinance number 0114 and thank my fellow council members for realizing the application deadline.
Second. I'm putting other grants in, so
Okay.
I second.
So we have a motion to adopt this and a second. Was there any more discussion about this? Mayor Weil?
Part of this project is actually to add another bridge across at the bottom of Columbus Road. So this will be like, it'll be a bike bridge. It'll link across Hocking to the bike path on the other side near Armitage. It's, so we have some funds already. We award, I think, $750,000 for this.
35.
What is it?
735.
735, close enough. And this is to make the addition just to finish it off and have enough to work on this. And again, it will link with the Columbus Road bike lane. The theory there is that you'll be able to get on and get off and not have to climb a hill there if need be, but it'll add more connectivity to our bike path.
Any other comments about the bike path? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to express my support for this initiative. Something that eventually we will need to consider long-term as maintenance. It is a bridge. So somewhere down the line, future Athenians will have to address this, I'm sure. But I do support this initiative at this moment and think that it falls into our larger bicycle pedestrian comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor of adopting ordinance 0114 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the ordinance is adopted. We'll move on to ordinance 0214, an ordinance amending the 2014 appropriation ordinance, also introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend ordinance 0214. And the reason for the suspension is that several of the items listed will be requiring drawdowns in the near future.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules on ordinance 0214 signify, and all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the rules have been suspended on ordinance 0214.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 0214.
Second.
And this particular ordinance has 4 sections to it, and what it's doing is amending our appropriation ordinance for 14513. That was our budget that we approved in December. So now what we're doing is a series of changes to it as we need to appropriate money during the year. We're increasing certain funds and decreasing others. So I'll briefly run through the 4 sections of it, and am also very grateful that we have the auditor here tonight to provide any additional explanation we need on it. The first section is allocating $460,000 to the CDBG fund. That's the Community Development Block Grant Fund, and we discussed this last week. This provides housing and rental, rehabilitation, and this year in particular will offer assistance to the Habitat for Humanity for a build in the city limits. And this is primarily, the program's primarily designed to aid low to moderate income residents in the city. So it'll be 3 owner-occupied homes, 13 rentals. We'll be assisting 2 local landlords who work with rental homes designated for low to moderate income, and then the housing construction. The next portion of this Section 1 calls for an allocation of $55,000 to the Water Fund. And this has to do with monies that the city has borrowed for water treatment plant improvements. And what we're doing with several of these details in this appropriation ordinance is making sure that we have appropriate monies moved from the water fund to the water debt fund. We had 2 loan payments, one of which I think was made just recently this year. So already. And so what we're doing tonight, too, I think is also taking into account that we'll be having another loan payment later in the year. So this particular first part is $55,000 that we're putting to the water fund. Part 3 of Section 1 has to do with money that we will be allocating to the sewer plant fund. And this is for our wastewater treatment plant improvements. And you might remember that all told, with principal and interest, the city borrowed approximately $22 million last year. We've had major construction going on, as some of you have seen the primary clarifiers, the large, round, circular pieces of concrete going up near the wastewater treatment plant. And so we have that going on, and then also the work on the UV, the ultraviolet disinfection structure, and other improvements. So those all told, of that $18 million project, we have approximately $13,200,000 that the city engineering and public works office has identified that we'll have as upcoming expenses. So a major portion of the improvements. Section 2 of the appropriation ordinance has to do with decreasing the CDBG fund. And you might recall that each year we have been fortunate enough to apply for a grant where we're often awarded approximately $70,000 to $75,000 for projects we identify around the city. This particular year we're going to be working on the Richland Avenue rehab. This particular $75,000, however, is for this coming year where we will be applying for the grant funds. And we realize that since we have not applied nor been awarded the grant funds yet for a future as yet to be identified project, we need to make sure that's not part of our certified resources in the city right now. So we're removing that $75,000. Section 3 of the appropriation ordinance has to do with money that part of that earlier money that we were making in loan payments between the water fund and the water debt fund. So what we're doing now is, in this section, transferring money from the water fund, account 740, over to the water debt fund so we can make the loan payments later on in the year. And that amount is $79,000. Section 4 of this appropriation ordinance then calls for appropriating $4,774 to the water debt fund and increasing the appropriation by that amount. So that's the remaining amount of monies that we need between now and the end of the year to make the loan payments for the water fund, the water improvement projects and the water debt fund.
Member Nisley, thank you for explaining that.
Well,
Very
I
complicated.
hope. And I had help from Debbie Walker and
Yes,
Kathy Heck. So
Was as clear as it could be. As water
As it
coming
could
out of a
be.
clarifier, right. Yes.
I would point out that both changes in appropriations for the CDBG are my error. The 460 CDBG, of course, is the money for the CHIP grant, and as I stated before, essentially that's a pass-through for HAPCAP. So I wasn't paying attention to the numbers when I put in the appropriation. In the case of the other formula money, the 75,000, that's a classic case of counting your chickens before they hatch. So, and as I say, that both of those were my errors. So we're fixing them along the way here.
Member Patterson?
I have a question, I guess either the mayor, you could answer it, or maybe Member Nisley can answer it, but it has to do with the fact that I think the citizens of Athens have been watching the clarifiers going up and the UV decontamination station. I'm just curious as to what the time frame is for those coming online, or
Not till 2015.
2015
I don't know.
for those.
Yeah. Well, the entire package, I think, is, they won't switch it over, but we'll be doing most of the work this year, and that's why you have to appropriate most of the money.
Sure.
Because we'll be getting the bills. If we haven't gotten them already, I think we have some, right?
So,
Oh, yeah.
Mayor, along those lines, if I may inject here, we also talked about including solar panels to help use the offset electricity. I don't know if we
I don't
purchased
think
those
that-
or if that's part of the project at the moment, or is it
I don't
something?
think that was part of the project at this
Okay.
point.
I know it was discussed at one point.
I know, but I don't think, I haven't looked at the latest design. The
Okay.
last time I actually took an overview of the design was at the 90% stage,
Okay.
but I don't think they fell into the mix at that time.
I think if my memory serves me correctly, that's what I remember as well.
Mhm. We'll be saving energy just by what we're using as well as chemicals. The efficiency of the circular clarifiers are much more efficient than the boxy rectangular ones we have.
Yeah.
So there will be some improvements there in terms of that. We could always do that at a later date if need be.
Okay. Thank you.
They're costly to put up, just the same. You'd have to, build it into a project and say we're going to add more money to the mix. So,
Any other questions?
I just wondered, when you say 2015, early 2015, late 2015?
the last conversation I had, it was going to be early or mid, but
Okay.
don't hold me to it because it's one of the many projects, that we cover, and there can always be surprises.
Right.
They're working pretty hard, and they're going, as far as I know, they're on schedule right now.
Any other questions or concerns about ordinance 0214? We do have a motion and a second, I believe, early on. And so all those in favor of adoption of ordinance 0214 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. This ordinance is adopted. We'll move on to ordinance 0314, an ordinance amending ordinance 14713, non-union personnel fringe benefits package, to clarify that paid absence days must be taken in 8-hour increments. Member Nyberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance 14713 was passed late last year, towards the end of our business dealings for City Council. And what we were doing with that non-union personnel fringe benefits package was clarifying some of the language in it. After that ordinance was passed, I believe it was probably finalized in December, we realized that we needed to add one phrase into that language on the non-union fringe benefits so that it would be clear to employees that when they take, it's a paid absence days off, that they need to be taking it in 8-hour increments. So it's just kind of, it is clarifying the language for employees so that it's clear for everyone.
Part of the reason for that is because it's hard to track those. If someone they can take a half a sick day for an appointment and do 4 hours. This is not a regular sick day. What happens is if an employee doesn't use their sick days for 90 days, use any, then they are in active work status. They're allowed to use a sick day as a personal day. And so, as I said, it's hard to track those, and so we really wanted them to, if they got one, to take it in a one full day, an 8-hour day at a time, rather than taking 2 for 6 hours at a time like people sometimes do for vacation and sick time. So this is only for these paid sick days that are used as personal days as a reward for employees who don't use their sick days on a regular basis.
Any other questions? Moving on to ordinance 0414, an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street from Union to State on Saturday, April 19, 2014, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the International Street Fair. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we discussed this last week, and this is one of our standard festivals that go on in the city of Athens on Court Street, so we need to do the necessary ordinance to close the street and have fun.
Is it-
Will there be other ordinances to follow associated with the International Street Fair? In other words, will we have parking garage closings or, not closing?
I don't know that that has been a common theme with the street fair. That's not something we do.
I think this authorization is
Covers it all.
covers everything. Moving on, ordinance 0514, an ordinance amending ordinance 9313, authorizing acquisition of the Dowler family property adjacent to the Far Hill subdivision to remain as undeveloped parkland. Member Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we mentioned in committee last week, this ordinance is simply changing the actual acreage to what was surveyed, which was believed to be 15, and it's actually 17.37 acres, and as well as changing its location. It used to read as being on Cardiff Lane and has been altered to reflect that it's on Far Hills subdivision. So it's more of a housekeeping ordinance than anything else.
Okay. We'll move on to ordinance 0614, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to purchase a street sweeper and declaring certain equipment no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Again, Member Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular ordinance, again, is to authorize advertisement accepting bids and enter into contracts for a new street sweeper. Our current street sweeper is 10 years old. It's a 2004, which may not sound like it's very old, yet they're really kind of logged on run time as opposed to actual miles logged. And if you've ever seen the street sweeper cruising around through our city, they go really slow. Maintenance is high on these. Annual maintenance is somewhere around $50,000 a year, which is a lot in terms of what we end up paying in. So, and if I understand correctly, part of this ordinance is to authorize the Service Safety Director to trade in the 2004, but there's also conversation of possibly repurposing as simply a unit that goes around vacuuming up leaves in the city. So, I mean, I believe that's still the plan.
Last I heard, should work out.
Any other questions regarding this? We'll move on. We have Resolution 0114, a one-reading resolution. A resolution supporting implementation of the Athens Hocking Zero Waste Action Plan dated December 2013. Introduced by all members of council. Who will speak for council?
I can start.
Member Pappy?
Thank you, Mr. President. So we did discuss this last week, and we had Aaron Sykes from Rural Action come and speak to council as well, for those of you who remember. And you were able to review this. There were some, there was a little editing on this, thanks to Pat Lang and Debbie Walker. Thank you. And I think it's in good shape now in terms of what we're looking for and what we expect.
Should the resolution be read?
Sure.
I can read it, or you want to read it?
I support that.
You don't want to read it? Okay, I will read it. A resolution supporting implementation of the Athens Hocking Zero Waste Action Plan dated December 2013, Whereas the City of Athens, Ohio is committed to protecting and enhancing environmental quality in the city now and for future generations. And whereas the placement of materials in waste disposal facilities such as landfills and incinerators is costly to taxpayers, causes damage to ecosystem, health, wastes natural resources, and transfers liabilities to future generations. And whereas an estimated 72,000 tons of waste is generated in Athens and Hocking County each year by residents, businesses, and institutions, and approximately 85% of this amount is sent for landfill disposal. And whereas a resource recovery-based economy will create and sustain more productive and meaningful jobs, and whereas waste prevention, reuse, recycling, and composting are material management options that conserve resources while reducing environmental impacts. And whereas through the application of various programs and policies, the majority of resources can be recovered. And whereas with the acknowledgement that government must lead by example by establishing criteria needed to eliminate waste. And whereas Athens Hocking Zero Waste Action Plan dated December 2013 outlines a method to eliminate waste and pollution resulting from the traditional disposal of resources to our common environment, land, air, and water. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. We do support this plan.
Mayor Weil?
I'm together a letter of support as well. Michelle Pappy and myself and the city planner were involved in the review of the plan. Most of the plan looked at the possibilities, the impediments to actually creating a zero waste environment. Some of the issues looked at how the difficulty of recycling, some of the hazardous waste pieces, as well as enforcement of litter control. I shouldn't say litter, but actually throwing trash over the hill. Conceptually, there's a lot of pieces to it, but it's a good goal to strive for. They've been working at this for at least 3 years, I think, and it's building to what we want in terms of local control and elimination of filling our landfill up. So I think it's a good idea. And as I say, I'm putting a letter together as well. I haven't finished my editing.
Thank you, ma'am. Betsy, hand up.
I just wanted to echo support for this. I think that when Erin Sykes presented last week, it was clearly an evidence that a lot of work had gone into it, including, council members and the mayor. But, just for raising awareness, educating the community, expanding, recycling opportunities, but also hopefully building jobs, as we look at the materials recycling facility. So it's good work.
Member Patterson? I thought you had something to say. Down this way? Anybody?
All for it.
All for it? Let's vote on it then. Resolution R0114. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, a motion?
I'd like to
Didn't
make
we
a
do that?
motion.
Yeah.
I move that we adopt Resolution
I'm sorry.
01-14.
Second.
Okay,
Jinx.
I jumped the gun. We have a motion to adopt. Now that we have a motion to adopt Resolution 0114, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the resolution is adopted. Thank you for people keeping up with things, okay. Announcements and other business. We need a motion to approve the auditor's December 2013 financial reports.
I move to approve the auditor's December 2013 financial reports.
Second.
We have a motion and several seconds. All those in favor of approving the auditor's report for December 2013 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. We have approved the December 2013 financial report from the auditor's office. Thank you for bringing that forward to us each month. And now we have an opportunity for citizens to speak.
I'm sorry.
I have
I'm
one-
sorry. I'm-
One item under other business.
I'm sorry, I didn't look down that way.
For the Shade Tree Commission, the mayor would like to reappoint to the Athens City Shade Tree Commission the following individuals: David Sinkoff, David Ingram, Jared DeForest, and these terms would be effective until December 31st, 2015. And so I move to approve the reappointment of these three individuals.
Second.
These are members of the Mayor's Shade Tree Commission. We do have a very active shade tree program within the city, and these people have volunteered their time to work with it. All those in favor of adopting these members signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you for bringing these forward. We have another.
I think we have several of these.
I think we have several.
I don't. I have one. I'd like to make a motion to adopt Noah Tremblay onto the Athens City Commission on Disabilities for a 3-year term. Noah has lived in Athens for many years, has been very active in a number of different ways in dealing with issues citywide that have to revolve around disabilities and accessibility. And he's also attended the Athens Commission on Disabilities meetings for probably the past 4 or 5 months. So he's been a regular member already, and he's kind of just ready to roll. So, like I said, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Noah Tremblay onto the Commission on Disabilities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Noah
Tremblay?
Tremblay to the Disabilities Commission. All those in favor of this appointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Welcome Noah Tremblay for a term of 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Mr. President, I have
do believe we have,
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a similar
okay.
request. I would like to move to reappoint the following individuals to serve on the Recreation Advisory Board. We had met this past week, and the majority of the members whose term is up have expressed interest in fulfilling a second term. One of the individuals, I believe Nick Clausen, was still considering whether or not he would be able to fulfill the responsibilities and obligations for a second term. The following individuals would be beginning a second term that would expire on 2/28/16. Mr. James Petrick, Ms. Paige Lost, former Mayor Rick Abel, and Bill Walker. Thank you.
Mayor Weil.
I would just like to mention, I'd like to thank all the citizen boards and the citizens who work on them. They put a lot of effort in. The Rec Advisory Board, Disabilities Commission, the Shade Tree Commission. So I was covering them all at the same time, but the fact is they do a great service.
The BCA.
What?
The BCA.
BCA, yes, that too.
We
There's a lot of them, though,
we have a tremendous support from the citizens of Athens who take on some really thankless jobs within the city, but jobs which do make a real difference for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion
Yes, sir.
to accept these four. Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay. We have a motion and a second to reappoint these people for a second term to the Recreation Advisory Board. All those in favor of this signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Congratulations on reappointment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Have I overlooked any others?
Nothing other than committees. Sweet.
Okay.
I'd like one. Planning and
Okay.
development.
And we,
Finance and personnel.
okay.
Transportation, and I need to make an announcement regarding that.
Okay.
Michael Lockman and Lance Rep will be here to give us an update on the transportation services with the buses and whatnot, so they will be here.
Good.
And I believe we have safety service as well, so full house.
Might as well, yeah. Okay.
What was the time, Michelle, on?
We do have, again, every other week is committee week, so next week will be the meeting of all 4 standing committees. And now, we have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that have not been covered on our agenda. If you step up to the podium and give us your name, please, and talk to us for 3 minutes.
My name is Charles Murray Rose. I reside at 4 Ridgeview Road. Excuse me. I am a 26-year city letter carrier of the Athens Post Office. I am not here representing who I work for, but as a concerned citizen who has been before City Council numerous times during the past 5 years about the issue of natural gas safety in this community. The latest incident during the first week of this month called me once again to appear before this legislative body. In late December, while delivering mail to 260 and a half East State Street, I know that's very close to your business, President Sands, a student rental, I detected once again the telltale odor that indicated to me that a problem was present. No one was home at the time, so I left a note with the mail urging the student renters to call Columbia Gas immediately. About 2 weeks went by, and while on my route, I saw 2 Columbia Gas Company trucks and a backhoe in the process of digging a deep hole at the site of this residence. I told one of my customers, who has been supportive of my efforts to be an advocate for public safety, about this latest incident. She later told me that she called the messenger to report yet another gas leak, and that she has seen nothing in the paper regarding this public safety story. I thought that a newspaper's responsibility was to inform the public about anything that might concern them, affecting their health and well-being. Needless to say, when I heard that the public was not given notice of this safety issue, I am once again here in front of you telling the story that should have been taken care of by the messenger. I could care less if... The point I want to make is, during these past 5 years, if I was just out for self-glorification, I wouldn't have taken the time to care and to warn people of these gas leaks. Am I proud of the fact that for 3 years I kept after Columbia Gas to finally influence them to replace 17,235 feet of pipeline and fork over $1.2 million in the process that affects 351 households? You bet I am. Am I proud of the fact that for 3 years I kept after City Council to enact the carbon monoxide detector ordinance that went into effect January 1st, 2012? That affects 5,400 rental properties in the city. You bet I am. This ordinance has already paid dividends because 4 lives were saved at 78 North Congress Street when their detector warned them that a lethal dose of carbon monoxide poisoning was present in their rental due to a faulty gas hot water tank. And then there was an article in the Messenger on the 9th of March 2012 stating city officials, CO incident shows detector measures merit. City officials, CO incident shows detector measures merit.
Mr. Rose, you have about 15 seconds.
Pardon me?
About 15 seconds left.
Oh, okay. Well, what I would like to say then, finish up, is Columbia Gas spokesman Ken Stammen agreed that Ohio's infrastructure is old, adding that, however, that in 2008 Columbia Gas launched a program called the Accelerated Main Replacement Program that will put $2 billion over the next 25 years toward replacing the old unprotected metal underground. Well, they started the project in 2011. There's still old metal in the ground. It needs replaced. So this accelerated main replacement program by Columbia Gas needs to be accelerated. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
And Mr. Rose has been responsible for warning more than one household about danger that he detected around it. And so he's made a real difference in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Charlie.
Do we have other members who wish to speak? Members of the audience? Okay. We have our agenda for next week. I believe the next thing is to just say we are adjourned. Thank you all.